Welcome to Light Her Up, your go-to podcast for exploring what it means to align with your passions and create a life filled with freedom, ease, and fulfillment. I'm your host, Natalie Bernacki, a mom, entrepreneur, and certified coach who left a 15-year corporate career to build a life aligned with my passions and help other women do the same. We'll be diving deep into topics like self-discovery, mindset shifts, and the courage to pursue the life you've always dreamed of. Thank you for being here and for prioritizing yourself. I'm honored to be a part of your journey. If you're ready to find your joy, reclaim your identity, and upgrade your life, you're in the right place. Now let's light it up. Hello, my loves, and welcome back to the Light Her Up podcast. It's Natalie here, and we are doing a solo episode today, and we're going to be talking about something that might hit a nerve if you've ever worked in a traditional corporate environment or if you're still in one. And before we get into it, I want to make something really clear. I have zero judgment for anyone who thrives in corporate. My husband works in that world. I know a lot of people that work in that world who genuinely love it. And corporate can absolutely be the right fit for some people. And for a while, it was the right fit for me too. It served a purpose in that chapter of my life, but it no longer serves the life I'm personally meant to lead. And what I want to share today is a behind the scenes look at what it actually took to survive in that world, that corporate game culture, the politics, the unspoken rules, the power dynamics, and especially what it meant to navigate it all as a woman. Now that I've stepped into entrepreneurship, I don't take a single ounce of freedom for granted. I didn't walk away because I couldn't handle it. I walked away because I could, and I finally decided I didn't want to play a game that never felt like mine to begin with in the first place. So this episode is for you if you've ever been stuck in a corporate role that no longer aligns with who you are. You've ever had to change who you were or shrink yourself to take up as little space as possible or perform just to be taken seriously. You're craving a more authentic, aligned, and spacious way to lead your life. And we're going to be diving into a lot of the things like emotional and political games that I personally had to play just to survive, the breaking points that made me say no a lot more, and what leadership and freedom now look like for me now that I'm no longer in that world. And before we dive in, I want you to know applications are officially open for the Rocket Ship Mastermind. This isn't just another mastermind, it's a full spectrum space for women building businesses that support their lives, not consume them. It's for the woman who leads with clarity, craves real conversations, and isn't here to follow someone else's formula. This is where strategy meets self-trust, where momentum is built from alignment, not urgency, and where your vision isn't too much. It's finally in the right room. If you've done everything for everyone else, you're done waiting for the right time, and you're ready to build or scale in a way that feels sustainable, strategic, and fully yours, this is your next move. So apply now. The link is in the show notes, and I cannot wait to see you on board. Okay, let's get down to business. Before I ever stepped into entrepreneurship, I worked for several startups. And in those early days, it did feel electric. I loved startups. We were scrappy, collaborative. It felt like everyone was on the same mission, had the same purpose. We were all like on this like rowboat rowing together. The culture was super fun. It was fast. You could like experiment. And I remember being able to say like, in a room of like 8 people, an idea that I had, and then our CTO would go and make that happen in the product, and you'd be able to see it like the next day. And most importantly, it was filled with people who really cared. So it was something special, and it was something that I genuinely loved when I first started. But over time, something shifted. As soon as those startups started to grow up and enter the more traditional corporate phase, there were things like layers of hierarchy, There were processes for the sake of processes. There was red tape. And over time, like you didn't even realize the shift was happening, but it just started to lose its magic. The energy shifted. And there was this one company that I worked at for a while. It was almost 10 years. And I remember we would call it this unicorn company because it really did feel so special. And it was one of those companies that a lot of the people that worked there were referred by other people. They weren't like found on a job ad somewhere. It was literally like by referral because everyone loved working there so much that they were willing to refer their like very good friends to work there. And I remember it changed into something entirely different. And it was especially after private equity came into the picture. Everything changed. The pressure increased. And I'm not saying like, okay, the job got so hard. I didn't like it anymore because it was just too much work. No, it was different. The energy shifted. And it was like suddenly leadership was no longer making decisions from excitement, from innovation, from like having this mission of wanting this company to do really well, to support and delight the customer. It was like they were operating from fear, and that fear and the fear based decisions trickled down to the entire company. And it was like a complete collective nervous system collapse. Leaders stopped taking risks and they just started covering their own asses. The vibe was like, we went from we're all in this together to I need to protect my job to hit my numbers and look good in front of the board, even if that means throwing others under the bus. There was a ton of blame, a lot of pointing fingers, no one taking responsibility anymore. The once sort of like all in team culture turned into a full blown dog eat dog survival mode. People made decisions not from alignment or integrity, but from pure panic. uh, Collaboration gave way to competition. Everyone was trying to prove their worth in a system that no longer valued vision. And I do remember, like, when we were a lot smaller at the time when I first started, we had like a sales team and a customer success team and a marketing team, and all of the teams just cohesively worked together. And we really wanted to support each other. And as we grew, it was like there were so many like arguments between the teams, and it wasn't coming from a place of like the customer in mind first or the success of the company in mind first. It was truly like I need to cover my ass and I need to make sure my department doesn't get in trouble for this mistake, so I'm going to do what I can to cover this up. And it just sucked. I started feeling it in my own body. I had the title, I had a really good salary, I had frequent recognition. On paper, on my LinkedIn profile, I was really making it. But internally, I was in constant performance mode. And it was like, again, one of those things that I didn't realize was happening until I looked back. And I was like, wow, over the course of 9 years, this was a really dramatic shift. But when you're in it, it's really hard to see. So I was sitting on teams I didn't want to be on. I was reporting to a boss who straight up led from fear, micromanaged my every move, gaslit the hell out of me, and made me feel smaller by the day each day. And at the end of the day, I was ultimately doing a job that I didn't want to do. I remember at the end of it, towards the end of it, every single action that I made was strategic. What time I sent emails, how quickly I responded, when I spoke up. Literally, I had to choose when I was going to like pick my battle or like speak up for something I cared about. And a lot of times I would just like end up not speaking up because the reaction from my boss was like not worth me standing up for myself. And I remember one time literally having a conversation with our head of HR, and she told me not to reply too fast to my boss's messages because it gave him too much leash. If I was advised from my head of HR to delay my responses to protect my power, I was like, something is wrong here. Like, why can't someone just speak to him and tell him, like, you can't be on your team like that? And I remember it being so exhausting. It had nothing to do with meaningful work. Like, it was literally all just a game. And that's when I truly started to feel completely out of alignment. It no longer was like, oh, I feel so good about my job. I'm helping my customer. I'm helping them, with the end goal of why they signed up as a customer. It was like, I'm just in this game and trying to survive so that number one, I don't get fired. And number two, I can keep climbing the corporate ladder. And probably what was more top of mind was like, so that I don't have to like be chewed out every single day or like get in trouble at work. I remember feeling like a pawn, like literally on a chessboard where leadership was playing chess with people's lives. And it was just like another piece being moved without a say. And what when I first started at the startup, I remember feeling like a person, like a real person that contributed and had ideas and was like taken seriously. And then as we grew, I just merely turned into like a number. When people say like, "Oh, I'm just a number," truly, I was just a number. I was headcount. And then something snapped. I remember being in meetings all day, literally Zoom after Zoom after Zoom. I was buffering between my boss's outbursts and trying to keep up the team morale at the same time. I was absorbing the tension from my boss and from like higher up down. So I was director level. So above me was like the VP and then the executive team of like the C level. And then below me was the individual management and individual contributors. So I was like kind of like right in the middle. So I was acting like a buffer between and absorbing that tension from the top down. And I was trying to protect everyone on my team so that they would be happy in their jobs and they would like their jobs and they would perform well and they would try. And I was really trying to keep the peace. And then one day my boss did something to me and I thought to myself, why the hell am I sitting here taking all of this shit? Why should I have to suffer just to protect the people on my team? And in my mind, like that is what I just thought good leadership did. But then it really started to take a toll, not only on my energy, my mood, and my mindset, but really on my mental health. And I thought, why am I doing this? Why am I holding the emotional weight of an entire system that is not mine to fix? These are grown ass adults. This is not my responsibility. And I realized that I had been sacrificing myself for a version of success that I no longer believed in anymore. So the moment that I realized it, I'll truly never forget. I was writing out my goals for like my 1 year and my 5 year plan. And in corporate, you do these things, they're called progression plans. And you write out like what you want like how you see your future at the company. And I remember, again, I was at the director level and the next up would have been VP. And should my boss had been promoted up higher and a position to open up for me, that would have been my next step in my progression. And I looked at him and I thought, oh my God, that is literally the last thing I want to be doing. There's no way in hell that I want that job. I don't ever want to be doing what he's doing, playing the political game so hard that it literally consumes you. I remember not even feeling like I could be myself at work. I had to be what everyone wanted me to be. And to do that at an even higher level, that was a big, hard pass. I didn't have a plan, but I did know that I couldn't keep surviving like that. I couldn't keep living like that. And I wasn't available for that kind of life anymore. And the more I think about it, having to play those games, be strategic with when you're sending emails, how you respond to something, how you're going to suggest an idea, and literally devising a plan of like, I remember having to like make the idea sound like it was my boss's own idea so that it would be taken seriously. Like all of these little games, if we didn't have to do that stuff in corporate, we could just do our jobs. And like, why all the nonsense and bullshit that comes with the day to day? If companies only realized how much more productive their teams would be and how much more successful their companies would be if the political bullshit just wasn't a part of it, I just can't even imagine. And since then, everything has changed. I don't filter myself. I don't manage perception. I don't shrink or make myself small to make people more comfortable. I lead my own business with integrity and full expression of who I am. I get to work with women who I adore. I get to build what I want to build, how I want to build it. I take naps during the day. I say no. I don't have to watch my little green light on Slack or on Teams in fear that someone may think I'm not working. I close the laptop early if my energy's low or if my kid want extra snuggles. I no longer need permission to rest, to play, or to change my mind. If someone gives me a project because they want to work with me, I don't have to accept that project. And if I was in corporate, I'd literally have to do what my boss said. I don't have to craft my tone to be respectful enough. I don't have to justify taking a Friday off just because I want to take it off. And I don't have to wear this protective shield on me just to make it through a Zoom call. My calendar finally reflects my values, not someone else's priorities. And my business finally reflects who I actually am and not who I have to perform as in order to survive. And the women I work with, they don't drain me, they light me up. They're emotionally intelligent, self led, and they are building from the same place that I am, from truth, alignment. And the best part is that I don't feel like I have to earn my life anymore. I'm not proving, I'm not performing, I'm not chasing anyone's stamp of approval. My success isn't contingent on being palatable. It's built on self trust, clarity, and the audacity to define success for myself. God, I love that word, the audacity. And what I wish I had known back then is that you don't have to keep contorting yourself to fit into spaces that were never meant to hold you. You don't have to carry the emotional weight of broken systems or people who operate out of fear or treat you like shit. You don't belong in survival mode. You belong in your full authority, full ownership of your life and who you are and what you do. Your voice isn't too much, and your ambition isn't a threat, and your vision isn't too big. You get to build a life that feels like you, fully, freely, and fiercely. So, for the woman listening who's still proving, still performing, or still pushing through, I really want you to hear this clearly. Nothing is wrong with you. You're not powerless. And you don't have to keep playing a game that was never built for you. You get to build something better and something that actually fits. So, here are a few reflection prompts for you to think about when you have time this week. So, write these down, maybe journal on them if you have a moment. One is, where in your life are you still performing to feel safe? And that could be in your job, in your career, that could be at home, that could be in a relationship. So, where in your life are you still performing to feel safe? And number two is, what would shift if you stopped proving and just showed up as you? And this week, your challenge is going to be to notice one moment where you're performing instead of being fully yourself. It could look like editing your voice to sound more acceptable, smiling through discomfort, or when you're really not wanting to smile, saying yes to something just to keep the peace when you really, really just want to say no. And when it happens, pause and ask, is this really who I am? Then take one small step back toward yourself and just be aware. That's the first key. Tag me when you do, and I want to celebrate the real you with you. And before we officially sign off, I'm going to bring on a very special guest to make his first cameo appearance on the podcast. And this is another example of what I'm able to do now that I'm not in the corporate world and that I am able to make decisions on my own and do what lights me up. And what lights me up are my kids. And so my very special guest for today is one of my favorite co-hosts, my son, Jax.
On the podcast?
Yeah, we're on the podcast. Okay, everyone, I have a special guest on the podcast today. He's making a cameo guest appearance for the first time. My favorite boy. What's your name?
Crazy Jackson.
Crazy Jackson.
Jackson.
Jackson. Okay, how old are you, Jackson?
6 or 5.
Am I supposed to guess?
Yes.
I think you're 5.
No.
You're 6.
It's 6.
Okay, you're 6. Let's see what kind of questions we could ask you. What is your favorite thing to do with your mommy?
Podcast.
Podcast? How do you know if you've never even been on the podcast till right now? Is this your favorite thing to do?
No.
What's your favorite thing to do with mommy?
Cuddle with mommy.
Cuddle with mommy. Can I tell you a secret? Can I tell you a secret? Don't eat the microphone. Can I tell you a secret? My favorite thing to do is cuddle with you too. And what does your mommy do for work?
I looked it finally.
Okay. What does your mommy do for work?
Help others and go on treadmills.
I help others and go on treadmills?
Yeah, you run and do flips on the treadmills.
Oh, wow. That's some special stuff going on right there. I help others. What do I help others do? Do you know? You don't know?
No.
I help other women, other mommies start their businesses so they can spend time with their kids and have them on their podcast like this. Okay. Say bye, everyone.
Wait.
Say bye-bye. Thank you for having me on.
Bye-bye.
He's whispering bye-bye. I don't know if you can hear him.
Bye-bye.
All right. And honestly, this is an example of what it's all about. Not just building a business, but building a life, one that feels aligned and rooted and true to who you are. So thank you for being here with me today, and I can't wait to catch you on the next episode. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Light Her Up. I hope you're feeling inspired and ready to take steps towards a life better than you ever dreamed. I see you, I hear you, and I'm so proud of you for showing up and prioritizing your journey. When you fill up your cup with love, you can pour so much more into the people and passions that matter to you most. If this episode resonated with you, I'd be so grateful if you subscribed, left a review, and shared it with someone who could use a little extra light. For more, check out our weekly 5-minute meditations or connect with me on Instagram at The Light Within Collective. I'm sending you my love, and I'll catch you on the next episode.